pulmonary, genital, urinary tract system, the endocrine, the gastrointestinal, and the skin changes. In cardiovascular, which is the most important one, and it has got two parts: the total body water and the cardiac output. These two major changes occur, which help major the major content of the changes in the pregnancy depends on this particular system, and in which the total body water and the cardiac output. What changes are there that we have to see now? The total body water uh, change increases from normal to 6 to 8 liters, and that is approximately 40% increase in the water content. The bloatedness that you will see in a pregnant lady, the weight of the patient, everything increases. The features change because there's a lot of water retention. And why is it, and what happens, and why the patient has got this excessive body weight and water? That is also explained in this. There's the 40% increase in water. The normal distribution of water is two-third is intracellular and the one-third is extracellular. But during pregnancy, it reverses and it is two-third. There is a two-third increase in the extravascular one. The reason for this is that the pregnancy-induced hypervolemia has really got important functions. Why do the nature increases this volume in the body? It is number one, to meet the demand of the enlarged uterus and also the increased vascular system. Also to protect the mother, in turn, the baby as well, the fetus, which is against the effects of the impaired venous return. Because what happens that in a supine position, when the patient is lying down, and that is the normal position of anybody is lying down, the weight of the uterus is on the supine, and which causes the inferior vena cava not to shunt the blood. So this hypervolemia compensates that as well. And also to safeguard the mother, because at the time of delivery, we all know there is a normal blood loss of 500 to 1000 ml, 500 in a normal delivery, and 1000 ml blood loss in a cesarean section. So if a patient would not have this hypervolemia, that loss will not have been compensated. So therefore, this hypervolemia is important in a pregnant lady. The physiology changes, the physiological intravascular change, the physiologic, yes, the physiological anemia, there's a physiological anemia of pregnancy. And what happens in that? The physiological intravascular change, the plasma volume increases approximately 50 to 70%, and at the beginning of the 6th week. In a non-pregnant woman, the intravascular fluid is 2600 ml, and it almost increases by 1260 ml. The mass of the RBCs also increases from 20 to 35%, and at the beginning of 12 weeks, and the RBC volume is also increased by 450 ml. The disproportionate increase in the plasma volume and these RBCs leads to hemodilution. And what happens in this hemodilution? That this hemodilution causes a physiological anemia. If a patient presents to you in a non-pregnant state with the hemoglobin of 13 grams per deciliter and it falls to 10.9, so that is considered as normal. So we are not going to treat a patient who has got a hemoglobin of 10.9 or 11. So the RCOG has given a cutoff line of 11 grams per liter at term is considered as a normal hemoglobin. And even in our population, up till 10 grams per deciliter, we take it as a normal hemoglobin. With erythropoiesis in pregnancy, the iron requirements are also increased, and there is a large amount of iron which may not be available in the body. So we ask the patient to have special diets in iron containing contents, and the diet should have more iron content, and also the supplementations are also advised. The patients have been given iron supplementation not from the beginning, But yes, from after the first trimester or third month of pregnancy, when it is completed, we recommend to take iron. At term, the hemoglobin less than 10 is usually due to iron deficiency rather than hemodilution. Hemodilution, if it comes up till 10, 10.9, 10 or 11, that is considered normal. But if it goes below that, then it means it is not because of hemodilution. There is some pathology going on which is causing this anemia. The normal body requirements of the iron in an adult female is 2 grams, and the iron requirement for normal pregnancy is 1 gram. Why we need to give more iron in this one? Because out of this 200 is excreted, 300 milligram is transferred to the fetus, and the 500 milligram is the need of the mother. Why the need of the mother? Because you know that there is an increase in the RBC volume. Therefore, that increase in the iron content, we need 500 milligram for the mother. The daily average is 6 to 7 milligram per day, and small intervals between pregnancies are really a concerning. Small interval means that those who are getting pregnant one after the other and they're not giving adequate time for themselves to improve their health. The WBC count also increases in pregnancy. Normal count is 5,000 to 12,000. Even if it increases up to 16,000 without any signs of infection, we will not take it as abnormal. Even up to 16,000. 5,000 to 12,000 is recommended, but in the postgraduate books, it is given that even up to 16,000, you do not need to find out, you do not need to investigate that what is happening and what are the causes of the rise WBC. There is these are predominantly these are the polymorphs. The platelets also, there is a slight decrease in platelet count in the hemodilution, and sometimes there are large sizes of the platelets as well, which is difficult to see under the normal microscope, and otherwise they have manually counted. So sometimes the platelets also get slightly decreased. The coagulation pregnancy itself is a hypercoagulable state. We always keep on reminding in every topic that we take that the pregnancy is itself an hypercoagulable state where the patient has got T chances of we have to be patient issue, so we need to see that coagulation is higher. अगर उसके साथ उसकी कोई concomitant disease है, तो we have to be more careful as compared to a normal female. There's an increase in the concentration of all clotting factors, which are factor 11 and third from 11, factor 11 and 13. Increase in fibrinogen levels about 50% in the end of last pregnancy. ESR is also increased due to the increase due to increase in fibrinogen level. And therefore, if a patient presents to you with any sort of, this is a clinical tip, that if a patient presents to you with any infection, like in medicine, you go for a testing of ESR, but not in obstetrics, because ESR is not reliable in a pregnant female. Then the cardiac output, that was the total body water. Now the cardiac output during pregnancy and puerperium, there are remarkable changes involving heart and circulation. The most changes occur in cardiac function in the first initial 2 months of pregnancy. The cardiac output is heart rate and stroke volume. It increases by the earliest 5th week, rise of 40% by 20 to 24 weeks. There's an initial increase in the function of the heart rate and the reduced systemic vascular resistance. By 10 to 20 weeks of the pregnancy, the cardiac output is reflected by the increase in the stroke volume. The notable increase in plasma volume of preload contributes to the increase in stroke volume. As pregnancy advances to the term, the heart rate continues to increase, but the stroke volume falls to close to the normal levels. This accounts for the fall in cardiac output to near non-pregnant levels at term. Uh, this This change occurs mostly initially in the initial pregnancy, but after 32 weeks, it comes to the normal non-pregnant level. Resting pulse increases 10 to 15 weeks. Sometimes patient come with tachycardia. If it is 80 or 90, we are not worried. Yes, but if it rises from more than 100, then yes, it's a concern that you need to investigate that patient. Also with increase in the size of the uterus because the diaphragm is elevated and progressively, so the heart is also displaced upwards and to the left and also rotate somewhat in the long axis. Because of the gravid uterus, the heart is moved because of the diaphragm pushes the heart to another position. Uh, what is this on a chest x-ray? If we see the elevation of the diaphragm, sorry, there's elevation of the diaphragm, hearts to be displaced to the left and upwards. There's an increase in the cardiac silhouette. Uh, benign pericardial infusion हो सकती है, but ये कि अगर उसके अंदर कोई symptoms नहीं है, तो you just ignore that one. In the ECG, there is an increased left ventricular wall mass. You can have increased end diastolic dimensions. There is increase in end diastolic volume, and therefore there is an increase in the systolic volume. The ECG shows slight left axis deviation. On chest auscultation, the splitting of the first heart sound is seen, is heard, and there's an increased loudness on both the components. The systolic murmur in 90% of the pregnant females, which disappears soon after delivery. And there is a soft diastolic murmur in 20%, but the continuous murmur arising from the breast can also be a confusing part in that, because there is a highly vascular area they supply into the breast as well, which also causes this, it mimics the murmurs, but it is not always present. But yes, it can mimic the murmurs. So you have to differentiate between the physiological and the pathological murmurs. In the respiratory system, there are three different things which work together. Number one, the diaphragm, which causes the mechanical changes in the respiratory system. Then there is an increased need of oxygen, so consumption increases. And thirdly, the progesterone stimulation causes all the changes in your respiratory system. In the mechanical, the diaphragm rises approximately 4 centimeters, and but there is no impairment in the diaphragmatic or thoracic muscle motion. It does not mean that the shape of the thorax will change or it will cause any other abnormality. It is only the diaphragm which is displaced, and even in the late pregnancy, it is not done in the initial part of the pregnancy. What diaphragm does when it rises up to 4 centimeters, there's a less negative intrathoracic pressure, decreased functional residual capacity, there is decreased expiratory reserve volume, and the decreased residual volume. But your lung compliance is not affected at all, which remains normal. When we talk about consumption, that was mechanical due to diaphragm, then the consumption increases up to 15 to 20%, and there's a 50% of increase which is required by the uterus because it is a highly vascular organ. A lot of blood is passing through this, and they need a lot more oxygen, and along with that, they need a good cardiac output to compensate that. So there's a despite increase in oxygen requirements with an increase in cardiac output and increase in the alveolar ventilation, the oxygen consumption exceeds the requirement. Therefore, arteriovenous oxygen differences fall and arterial PCO2 also falls because बहुत ज़्यादा hyperventilate कर रहा होता है patient इसकी वजह से. Then the stimulation, the progesterone is known as to directly stimulate the ventilation. It increases the sensitivity of the respiratory centers to carbon dioxide. And it is thought that it reduces pulmonary resistance. So the asthmatic patients, they improve during pregnancy. It is not the asthma worsens during pregnancy, asthma improves during pregnancy. The minute ventilation, respiratory rate and tidal volume increases, minute ventilation increases, but the respiratory rate remains unchanged. They all increase, but they're not they will not change the respiratory rate. But if you find that in a patient you have a higher respiratory rate, then you have to go for investigations to find it out that why this patient is having a higher respiratory rate. The vital capacity remains unchanged. That is that maximum volume that could be forcibly inspired after maximum expiration. Therefore, vital capacity is also unchanged. The physiological changes, dyspnea increases in desire to breathe because the patient wants to breathe further. 70% of the pregnant women experience this, and it usually occurs during the first trimester without mechanical factors. क्योंकि अगर कोई प्रेग्नेंट फीमेल आपके पास आती है तो उसके साथ उसको हमेशा यही होता है कि जी मैं बहुत ज्यादा ब्रीथ कर रही हूँ, आई एम नॉर्मल से ज्यादा ब्रीथ कर रहे हैं, इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर मी एंड ऑल द टाइम आई फील breathless. So initial in the pregnancy, until and unless you find some other pathology, you auscultate her chest or any cardiac issues, this could be due to the effect of the progesterone. But if you go for the PFTs, there will be no change. So therefore, we do not advise for these fancy investigations if we know that the patient is fine after examining the patient. The lower PCO2 then paradoxically causes a dyspnea. The marked change or marked decline in PCO2 results in the sensations of dyspnea. It is not a true dyspnea. In the genital tracts, there is an increased vascularity into the, and there is a hyperemia at the vaginal, perineum, and vulval region. Patients usually complain of heaviness into the vulva and vagina because there is excessive blood flow. uh, there is increased secretions, then the vagina and the cervix, when they become pregnant, they're very typical bluish color because of the increased vascularity. There's an increased length of the vaginal wall and hypertrophy of the papillae of vaginal mucosa because it has to, the nature has to prepare the vagina for a normal delivery. So therefore, all these hormones have an effect on it. The uterus, non-pregnant uterus, weighs only 70 grams and it terms, the capacity is only 10 ml. But in term, the uterus size increases to that extent that it weighs 1100 grams and the capacity from 10 ml increases to 500 to 1000 times because of the gravity increase in the size to accommodate a fetus in it. Uterine enlargement is due to hypertrophy of the myocytes, and also the high levels of progesterone and estradiol are responsible for this hypertrophy. Later, the growing contents of the uterus, they provide the stimulus. While advancing gestation is specialized cellular connections develop because of this is what I'm explaining due to the contractions. There are two types of contractions. One of them is the false contractions, which are Braxton Hicks contractions, and the other are the true normal labor. So, but what happens that there is a cellular connection and the membrane's potential to spread from one cell, the 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 the, the connection, the membranes are connected to each other, and the potential is spread from one cell to another, causing the myometrial contractions. The Braxton Hicks contractions are the false contractions, and they are occurred because of this membrane potential. And there are three layers, which are the uterus has got three layers. But the true labor occurs when there is the difference in progesterone and estrogen. Uh, Now the gravid uterus has limited autoregulation. The uterine blood flow is increased from 100 ml to 1200 ml. That is the requirement of the gravid uterus. Because uterine vessels are maximally dilated, little autoregulation can occur to improve flow during perfusion pressure changes. Maternal cardiac output declines. जब भी gravid uterus होती है तो later on the cardiac output declines, blood flow is shifted away from the uteroplacental circulation to the maternal brain, kidney and heart at the time of parturition. जैसे ये वापस जाता है, जब भी आपका कार्डियक हाई आउटपुट होता है, जो कार्डियक पेशेंट्स होते हैं उसके अंदर हमें इमीडिएटली उनको उनका जो है वो क्लैंप नहीं करते हैं. वी लेट दीज पेशेंट्स टू ब्लीड अ लिटिल बिट, नॉट मोर. not very much, because the cardiac patients में ये होता है कि जैसे वो deliver होते हैं, the whole load goes back to the whole of the uteroplacental circulation goes back to the brain, kidney, and heart, which can cause a problem, can cause a maternal death as well, even in the especially in the cardiac patients. So because of this overload, when a cardiac patient comes to you, we let them to bleed a little bit more as compared to the normal ones, so that the fluid, the excessive water which is physiologically retained in the body goes out, and there is less pressure on the heart. The changes in the cervix, they become soft and swollen, increase vascularity, the color changes to bluish, mucus glands are distended, remodeling hoti hai cervical collagen ki, because the cervix has to be prepared for delivery, and the lower segment which is made, which is formed in the end of the term, and the lower segment, and at the time of labor, what goes up, what uh, is what is effaced is cervix. So अगर cervix का collagen change नहीं होगा during this pregnancy because of the effect of the hormones, तो वो उसके अंदर उसकी cervical effacement जो कि वो normal नहीं हो सकेगी. So therefore there is a remodeling of the cervical collagen. All these changes, they occur under the estrogen and progesterone effect. Even the breast, the number of glandular ducts increase because of the effect of estrogen, and also the glandular alveoli increases because of progesterone and human human placentogen. In the urinary system, there is a dilatation of the whole system. The calyces, renal pelvis, ureters, they all are dilated, and they're more prominent on the right side. There could be a partial obstruction of the ureters, which can occur at the pelvic rim because of the presence of the gravid uterus. The progesterone produces a smooth muscle relaxation, which is thought to cause the relaxation noted. Therefore, if you find the hydronephrosis in a pregnant female, that could be even physiological, and that is considered as normal. The GFR increases by 50% because of the requirement. The renal plasma flow increases by 60 to 70% by the mid of the pregnancy. It plateaus and then remains unchanged until term. Till mid gestation, there are changes, but not later on. The elevated GFR is reflected because in the lower serum levels of creatinine and blood urea nitrogen. But if the serum creatinine level increases during pregnancy, then again it is a concern, is a pathological thing. The GFR is 120 to 160 ml per minute, it should be. The protein urea is normally not present in a non-pregnant female, but yes, because of this increased GFR, you can find proteins, but in a very less amount, and only in a very less amount, and only traces could be found. But there is an average loss of 115 milligram per day, but it is really confined. The albumin secretions was 5 to 30 milligram per day. But if it increases to 2 plus or 3 plus, that is more than 300 grams, then it means that it is abnormal. In the normal physiological endocrine system, the physiologically shows lower and higher highs. मतलब अगर आप ग्लूकोज में चले जाएं, postprandial hyperglycemia होता है. Why? Because they have to sustain the glucose level for the fetus. Therefore, the postprandial hyperglycemia is more important. इसका practical importance ये है कि when we do an OGTT, or when we ask the patient to go for their routine blood sugar charting, especially in the diabetic patients, we are not concerned about the preprandial values. We are more concerned about the postprandial values, because in the postprandial values, the females, the mothers have a higher tendency of having a hyperglycemia. Therefore, in order to encounter that and to see that hyperglycemia has got the upper limit of the hyperglycemia, so we do the postprandial one. We are not concerned about the preprandial. But अगर आपको medicine में किसी ने पढ़ाया तो उसमें आपको वो, of course they will ask you kg, we need 6 readings, that is preprandial and postprandial, and we need a fasting sugar. So, but what we are concerned in a pregnant female, if we need to have all these tests, so we ask them to have a fasting sugar level, and then 2 hours postprandial, that is after breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Then accelerated starvation, early switch from glucose to lipids for fuels hai. Insulin resistance promotes hyperglycemia, and mild fasting hypoglycemia occurs with elevated free fatty acids and triglycerides and cholesterol. The insulin resistance, there is anti-insulin environment which is caused by placental lactogen, which has a growth hormone like effect. It also increases lipolysis and FFA. It also increases tissue resistance to insulin. And there is increased unbound cortisol. The estrogen and progesterones may also exert some anti-insulin effects. Thyroid gland, in the endocrine, the thyroid gland is also affected. It's the estrogen component of the pregnancy. It stimulates the increase in thyroid binding globulin, the T3 and T4, the total T3, T4, not the free one. The T3, T4 are increased. However, the active hormones remain unchanged. The HCG, because the component of HCG, FSH, LH, and TSH, the alpha component, they all share the same alpha component. Therefore, the TSH is reduced in that one. And iodine deficient, in an iodine deficient state, that would be due to the increased renal clearance. And to rule out the pathological changes early in the pregnancy, TSH can be used, because if a patient presents with excessive vomiting, then we go for the thyroid stimulating hormone. And later on, if you need to monitor the TSH, then we do the pre T4. Regarding the calcium metabolism, 40% bounds to the serum albumin. The calcium decreases when albumin level falls. Unbound ionized form remains the same. The fetal demand is substantial, and there is increased absorption from gut, and there is a decreased secretion. So, आपको calcium supplementation भी देनी पड़ती है. As a result, there is a little change in transfer from and to the bones. The fine balance hota hai, cannot be sustained just by the dietary source alone. So therefore, the calcium supplementations are recommended during pregnancy. Vitamin D3 also plays a role in the calcium absorption. Therefore, if you're giving a calcium and still the patient is complaining of the bone aches and the changes in the pregnancy, so we need to check their vitamin D as well. If it is low, then you need to replace vitamin D in order the absorption of the calcium. Vitamin D production is under the influence of parathyroid, and the parathyroid also increases during parathyroid hormone increases during pregnancy. The pituitary glands also increase in size by about 135%. Increase in blood supply. There's a growth hormone. What happens अगर इसके अंदर हमारे पास बहुत ज़्यादा high pituitary gland के ब्लड फ्लो होता है, अगर फर्ज करें कि कोई पेशेंट severely bleed करती है, she goes into massive PPH, then these patients also have a Sheehan syndrome, because what happens, the blood supply which was already given to the brain, kidneys, and heart of the mother, they get compromised. So you can just make an idea that Sheehan's का reason क्या होता है, because the blood supply is approximately increased up to 135%. Also, the growth hormone. In the first trimester, the serum and the amniotic fluid levels of hormone remain the same, but from 10 weeks onwards, the serum value increases till 28 weeks and then plateaus. The level of growth hormone in amniotic fluid peaks by 14 to 15%, 14 to 15 weeks, and then declines later on. The fetal growth is not regulated by this growth hormone. The insulin and insulin like growth factor 1, they also play an important role, and the prolactin level increases substantially. There's a tenfold increase, and after delivery, there is a decrease in its level. During early lactation, it is released in births, but principal function is to ensure lactation. If you go for a prolactin level in the pregnancy, that would be higher. But if you go for a prolactin level during lactation, you might not find a higher levels of prolactin because once the lactation is established, then it is not the prolactin which is secreting which is causing the milk production. So therefore, it only ensures lactation and then it comes to its normal value. In the GI tract, the displacement of the stomach and intestine, of course, because of the gravid uterus, the space just displaces everything. The appendix is displaced. Sometimes it becomes very difficult to diagnose a patient of appendicitis while they are pregnant because the typical finding of appendix will not be in that lower right quadrant. It could be anywhere, either behind the uterus, or it can even go up to the umbilicus, or it can change its position because of the push of the gravid uterus. The gastric emptying and intestinal transit times are delayed, leading to because of the secondary to hormonal and mechanical factors. Therefore, these patients have got higher incidence of having gastric burns, heartburns. So therefore, we advise them to have different meals, divided meals, so that because of this gravid uterus, it can cause this displacement and this problem for the patient. Pyrosis is common due to the reflux of the secretions. The vascular swellings of the gum is very common. Hemorrhoids due to elevated pressure in the pelvic veins. Liver morphology is unchanged. The lab test similar to the liver disease, in which the alkaline phosphatase doubles, which is a normal finding during pregnancy, and the rest are slightly towards the lower side. And there is a decreased plasma albumin. The gallbladder, there is impaired contraction होती है, high residual volumes होती हैं, and there is more stresses in the gallbladder, which leads to with increased cholesterol saturation of pregnancy, and which supports predisposition to the stone. Therefore, the fertile females are more prone for this. The intrahepatic cholestasis also occurs because of this, and the patients can present with itching, where the bile salts are retained and they can cause pruritus. The itching in the pregnancy or pruritus gravidarum, then this is a concern that it can increase to a level that patient needs treatment. For the skin changes, there are skin changes on the face, the abdomen. This is melasma, which can be to a lighter to a darker, covering the whole of the face. It is the mask of the pregnancy. More darker skin hoti hai, more common in dark skin people, and it is more pronounced in the summers. But after delivery, it fades away. It can occur in normal non-pregnant women with harm because of the effects of the OCPs and the hormones, the progesteronic hormones. These are the striae gravidarum. The picture on the left side is because it is in the pregnancy, which is the darker side, but after the delivery, the color reduces. The striae are reddish, slightly depressed, breast, thighs, and abdomen. In future pregnancies, they appear as